Hello, thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to be here to interview one of our authors from the second book in the Changing Work Collective book series, which is titled Leading with Compassion, Cultivating Connection from the Inside Out, published on February 14th, 2025. My name is Trisha Livermore, and I'm the Volunteer Events Director and member of changingwork.org, as well as a contributing author in the first book of the Changing Work Collective series, which was an Amazon bestseller entitled Leading with Self-Awareness, Starting from the Inside Out. You can find both of these books on Amazon or changingwork.org. For anyone listening who may be unfamiliar with the Changing Work Collective, we're an online community of individuals who are committed to conscious business practices and changing work from the inside out. I'm excited to be here today to discuss book number 2 from the collective with one of our 25 contributing authors, Minu Datta, who wrote chapter 15 entitled, Will You Recognize It When You See It? So thank you for being here, Minu. Let's start with an introduction. Tell us about who you are and what inspired you to write your chapter on leading with compassion.
Hi, Trisha. It's good to be here. My name is Meenu Datta, and I am the founder and CEO of MD Coaching and Consulting, which I opened after 20 plus years of experience in the tech industry. Now I work with overworked executives and help them 10x their productivity, performance, and impact. I also work with leaders who want to transform their teams or organizations' survival-driven, unproductive behaviors into a culture of impact and growth through audacious compassion. So, to answer your question, how did I think about writing this chapter? Working with my clients, I realized that leaders who were having a difficulty showing compassion to others were the ones who were self-critical and didn't know how to show compassion to themselves. So when we decided that the topic of the book will be leading with compassion, it just gave me an opportunity to share that you can't give something to others if you don't have it for yourself. I also wanted to share what compassion may look like in the workplace and how to recognize it.
Yes, your chapter is very informative in that space. And without giving the details away of your story, you essentially had a boss that unexpectedly showed you compassion towards you during a difficult time. And you stated in your chapter, his genuine concern and desire to help brought self-awareness and compassion into my life in a way that made me completely rethink my understanding of leadership. I'd love for you to share more about how that changed your views on leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. So before this particular incident, actually, my understanding of compassion and compassionate leaders was completely different. Right. So this incident, just because this person, this manager was a serious guy. He still is a serious guy and focused on his deliverables, projects, ROI, and all of that stuff. And under that demeanor, no one could see how compassionate he is. So the reason I say that it just changed my view of leadership was like I was boxing leaders in my mind unknowingly. Like if someone is really soft spoken and patient, then they are compassionate. And if someone has a very stern demeanor, then they are not compassionate. So I just realized with this one experience that I was jumping to conclusions, and there's more to a person than what meets the eye on a regular day. So that's what I mean by his show of leadership and actually making a decision towards my well-being. Just 15 days before a major project delivery, which was like enterprise level delivery, just showed me that a leader can actually make a tough decision like that out of compassion.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you kind of talk about this as well in your chapter is compassion is multifaceted. And you just touched on it a little bit about how multifaceted compassion is. So can you share what you mean by that?
Yeah, what I mean by that is, again, like I said, don't just look at the person and if they have, really friendly demeanor or they are soft-spoken or really energetic, then they are compassionate. Or if they are showing compassion in words and in actions on a day-to-day basis, it's clear they are compassionate. But that does not tell you about your um, ability to actually recognize it when it's not evident, right? If leaders can be compassionate while they are just asking you to help someone, another person on your team, that's compassion, right? If someone is actually giving you feedback, honest feedback. It may sound like criticism. It isn't. If a person is actually genuinely trying to help you, that's compassion. So there are so many hues and colors and about compassion that we need to actually pause and see around us where is the intention coming from than just being on autopilot and just picking up the surface level cues that like, two, three, four cues that I just talked about. Person is friendly, they are compassionate. Person is stern, they are not. So just dig a bit deeper and try and understand the people around us.
That's beautiful. And there's so much there. And if you're listening, check out Minu's chapter because she has all sorts of very specific examples in which ways, like she just described, that compassion can show up that might not be obvious to most people. And one of the other things that you mentioned in your chapter is how compassion societally has been looked at like as a feminine trait. And I'm curious about how you help others to see that compassion is a skill that can be cultivated by anyone.
Yes, that was another beautiful incident that I have mentioned in the book, so I won't go into the detail of it, but it was another male leader who made me realize that there is this gender bias that men can't be as compassionate as women. And honestly, I don't think I had thought of it myself before that particular conversation. But what I realized was instead of thinking of it as that, oh, women are more compassionate, so I would want to work with more women, or I would want to work with women leaders, or that men just don't have it. I thought this is not something that is inherent because I had met a lot of compassionate male leaders as well. So, with that understanding, when I heard that there are people who think it's an inherent feminine trait, I tried my best at work in actually talking to people and talking about actually highlighting their compassionate actions whenever they did. And I actually using the word by saying, oh, how compassionate of you. And more often did I see that people would just, feel like, oh, okay, was I being compassionate or did she recognize? So all I did was just wherever I would see a leader exhibiting compassionate behavior, I would just highlight it. And I did that both for male and female leaders. Didn't like feel like I should be only doing it for males, but it really helped. And I started to see it actually started a few conversations with some of those male leaders where they said, I hardly ever get that compliment apart from my wife or my daughter or someone or my previous colleagues. No one has ever in this company mentioned it. So it felt great that you recognized it. So we had a lot of such conversations, which gave another opportunity for me to actually request them to talk more about compassion with other male leaders and actually tell them that it's okay to show your soft side if that's what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really loved about your chapter is you sort of have this three-step process that you walk through and kind of understanding someone else's worldview, really understanding other people's actions. You mentioned kind of what are other people's intentions, behind their actions. And I'm curious, like, how did you come up with this three-step practice for yourself, to really continue this practice of compassion?
Yes, that happened over a period of time, I would say. That one incident that I talk about in the book, which is like almost decade and a half ago, that one incident actually took me on this reflective journey where I was like, I did not see this person as a compassionate leader. I may have misunderstood a lot of their other actions. So I started to reflect and I started to just deeply observe other people, including him after that. And then I did a very good review of similar actions in past. And slowly, when I saw that, okay, there were many opportunities and there were many chances when was being compassionate to me, and I just did not recognize it. And that's where these three steps came into picture. Like, so I don't miss recognizing it in future, I created this small, simple three-step process, which simply was for me to not jump to conclusions and not judge right away, and actually just listen and observe and see where the person is coming from. So the process started as slowing me down a little bit and be more intentional about having the conversations and listening actively in the conversations. And I shared it with few of my friends, family members, and I saw that other people also gave me similar feedback that you are right, actually. If you spend a few minutes in actually listening to the person and seeing where they are coming from and what's the intention and not jump to conclusions, but just ask a few clarifying questions, it's a completely different situation sometimes than we think it is.
Yeah, what I really hear you say is that you have practiced a level of self-compassion when you get into a space of judgment or being critical or a lack of understanding or something along those lines, where really having self-compassion, taking a step back, then extends that compassion to everyone else. So that's a really beautiful process that you've created for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it definitely gets you to a point where you don't just follow your narrative. Like sometimes we are self-critical, and because we are self-critical, anything someone else is saying to us, we just start seeing in that light. And that's not true. The other person has no idea that you are critical about that thing or you have this area of growth. Um, and that's where just being patient and giving yourself a chance to be compassionate about yourself and not be focusing on the thing that you are thinking you are not enough for, and just listen to the person without any judgment. That just does a twofold thing. It's showing compassion to yourself and then also showing compassion and respect to the other person and actually letting them say their whole thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's such beautiful self-awareness, which is one of the reasons why, Changing Work created these books and this collective is to really help people, have a greater view of what does consciousness mean in the workplace. And one of them is self-awareness in the first book, and the second one is compassion. So there's a variety of different ways that we can bring these things into the workplace, just as how we're responding to ourselves and then extending that out to others. I'm curious for anyone who's listening who might want to be a contributing author at some point in our future books. What was your experience of the writing process? Were there things that you enjoyed? Did you have a challenge? Did you learn anything from it? Like, what was your overall experience of the writing process?
For sure, the writing process for me was great. Right. It was super simple because all I had to do was focus on my chapter. And Changing Work actually did all the heavy lifting, with the behind the scenes work. And that just freed up all the energy to actually think about what message do I want to convey, right? The discussions with the authors and having guest mentors was really helpful in getting clarity around storytelling, right? And how to keep the chapter in alignment with the voice and views and lessons that I want to share. The other thing that I really loved was the kind of autonomy we got in writing the chapter. You know, we all have this view of publishing houses and editors from movies and books, and I was like really anticipating and expecting a lot of rework. You know, cut this. This is not good. Say it like that. But none of that happened. None of that happened, and that was the beauty working with Changing Work, that we all were just really sharing our views, our lessons in our voice, and nobody tried to just put us in a box and say this is the style you should be writing in. So yeah, definitely a great experience.
Awesome. Now, have you written anything before, or was this your first time?
This was my first time. I have been publishing articles, but yeah, this was my first time when I actually write something in a story form. I write mostly nonfiction style, not story style, but actually completely, views and lists and stuff. But so this was my first experience, and it was great.
Good, excellent. And I'm just one last question before we wrap up. What attracted you to the Changing Work Collective?
Scott, Scott Shute, who's one of the founders of Changing Work, he was one of the faculty members for a program that I did, a 9-month inner MBA, 9 month. And I always say like are reborn after that 9 months of program. He was one of the faculty members, so I was in touch with him. So when he started Changing Work, he messaged me and asked if I would like to join. And this work is really close to my heart. Yes, I have left my technical role, but I have not left tech. I am an executive coach. I still am working with the tech professionals, and my idea and intention and mission is to still work, with the tech industry and the corporate world and change the way we work. So it was a no-brainer for me to just join Scott and the Changing Work team to be on this journey with him.
Excellent. I think you and I have a similar background. I also met Scott through the Inner MBA program, and that's how I learned about conscious or changingwork.org. So excellent. So if people wanted to reach out to you or follow up with you, where would they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just type Meenu Datta as it's spelled here in this chat, in under my picture, and then my website is mdcoachconsult.com.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your valuable insights today and your contribution to book 2, Leading with Compassion, Cultivating Connection from the Inside Out, published on February 14th, 2025. You can also find Changing Work's first best-selling book, Leading with Self-Awareness, Starting from the Inside Out, on changingwork.org and also on Amazon. So thank you for listening. And if you found this content valuable, please take a moment to share this with others in your community or on your social media. And thanks again for joining us today, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Meenu.
Thanks, Tricia. It was a pleasure.